showstopper, Stavrakis. I'm so sorry. Here we go. There you go. The microphones. Peter, you're welcome. So I had a question that was asked yesterday. I had to translate it, but we hadn't had time for it, so I will ask it today. Could you imagine to be all together in a new zombie movie, in a new, maybe sort of remake of The Dawn of the Dead? It was asked by somebody from the audience.
Could I hear that question again from the beginning?
Yeah. Can you imagine to be all together, to star all together in another film, another zombie film, another sort of Dawn of the Dead movie?
Well, it would have to be a very interesting place where we would be. I don't know, since we were in the mall, I don't know where they put us now. It would be someplace else, maybe the submarine, old age home, I don't know.
It would have to be one of us who had the money to make the movie, because then that's the only reason we would say, okay, now we'll get everybody back together. That's how we felt. It was fun making the first one, and if I could, I would make another one with all of us.
Well, it would be great if it was in the Caribbean, in some Mediterranean environment with really good restaurants, and that would be an incentive to go.
A golf course would be nice, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna try to make this real quick, which is a good job for me, right? I wrote something years ago. I'm gonna tell you, and I can't think of the title. Anyway, it was the continuation of what happened after Gaylen and I left the mall and escaped. And we landed in an island, and we had children. We had Stephen's child, and then I impregnated her with many more, and then she died. And so we have a grave, and there was the helicopter is all covered with moss and you know it's rust and that kind of thing, and trees and this kind of, but you can see it. And I would go to her grave site and I would put flowers there and that kind of thing. And on the way to getting to the island, we picked up some other stragglers, and we got a boat and it had a helicopter pad on it, and we went to this island, and they had kids, and so I was surrounded, and I was fat, and I really wrote this. I was a huge fat guy that drank all the time, and it was like Swiss Family Robertson, you know. We had the compound, and I had about 20. I think it was about 20 kids, and from 21 to about 9 or 10, and they were, you know, all. There was some African American, some half, some white, you know, because we picked up people, and they pretty much ran it. And I would come down after drinking from my still and have dinner every night, and then I go back to being a slob. And then it went on from that. But I wrote this. It was the strange thing about it.
Yeah.
It was after 57 pages. I had written the entire script. I had nowhere else to go, and so that's what I did. So yeah, I thought about it. Yeah, I wrote it, and I even gave it to a few people. I was looking to get it.
And nobody ever made it.
Nobody, right? As Tassel said. If we have the money, we get made. Someone will make something, but unless someone in here would like to talk to us about investing, that was the question.
I have an idea. He just gave me an idea. I don't know if Kenny will accept it, but since you never saw Roger actually shot, you heard it, but you never saw it. So actually what happened is that he missed, okay? And then, so Roger spends his entire zombie life trying to find them, and he does find them eventually, and then he eats them, and that's the end of the movie.
So I had another question I have to translate to all four of you. What do you think, how much the music of the movie? We had different kind of music. For the European market we had the Goblin soundtrack, and for the American market we had the more, let's say, rock soundtrack. And mostly in Europe the movie is very popular, especially as part of when you listen to the soundtrack. So people say it's very cool. It's very unusual, the Goblin score. So do you think it has, that the movie has become successful here in Europe? It has to do a little bit with the soundtrack. What do you think of that?
I think that part of the success of that movie and George's cut, and I'll talk about the American, the Goblin is okay, and it was well done. But I think the success of either one of them is either Dario's cut or George's cut is the soundtrack and the music. It's a very important part to the popularity and the success of that film, in my opinion. So,
I thought the Goblin music was pretty interesting. Sometimes I thought it was a little odd, what was going on. And then some of my kind of favorite things about it, which was the actual mall music, because that was really in there, right? And, yeah. That actually plays during certain scenes, because that was kind of bizarre and almost Twilight Zone-like.
I remember the music being very dated. It helps watch the movie in a comic book fashion now. You know, it's very stilted. The whole thing makes it sort of off-kilter, the music.
I have a two-part question for Ken. One is about to do with Lords of Salem. What kind of movie can we expect from that, and your part in it? And the second part of the question is, what is it about Rob giving you all those cool afros?
Okay, the Lords of Salem. It's about witches, Salem witch trials, and then it goes into contemporary period from 2012, 2011. And I can't tell you that much about it because I've been instructed to tell you it's the greatest movie ever made, and that's it. but my character, I play a talk show host, and I wear I have hair. And I think that I'm wearing about now I have a goatee, kind of goatee beard. Rob likes to, and for the second part of that question, Rob just likes to put me in beards and hair and afros. He just, you know, he always likes to do something with my look. And I complain, or I may protest a little bit, or I may have a, you know, a disagreement, but he's always right about the hair and not everything, but so that's it, yeah. I wish I could tell you more. I haven't seen a frame of it yet. I've only seen the promo. I've seen that twice. I know that it did premiere in Toronto and also somewhere else, I believe, some other film festival recently. So I don't know, maybe you guys know more about it. You probably will know more about this film when it's going to be released, what it looks like, what I'm doing in it before I will. So I hope that answers your question.
So a question to all four of you. Can you tell us in a few words, what is your favorite scene from the movie?
That's a difficult question because there's so much happening in that movie. But I will say that my favorite scene is when I drop into the gun shop. And I put on the double holstered cowboy holsters and the guns, the Derringer. I pick up the scope rifle and the banderos around, bandanas, what do they call this? What do they call them? Bandoleros. Bandoleros around my chest. And if you ever grew, you know, if you grow up as a kid, you watch cowboy movies and that kind of thing, and you kind of fantasize. That was a fantasy come true. I just, oh my God, damn. That was great for me. I'm, you know, macho kind of kid.
I think my favorite scene was the turning point in Roger's character in the truck, and when he starts to lose it, fractures and comes apart, basically. Because that character prides himself on being able to be in control and control all the circumstances around him, and then when he realizes he's out of control, he then starts to completely lose it. Yeah, it's him. That bites me. Yeah, you're right, thanks. Get away from me.
My favorite scene is when the Mexican biker gets his arm in the blood pressure machine ripped off. That's Tony. Yeah. Tony Boo.
You know, I think it's not so much my favorite scene, but it was one of my favorite moments with George when we're in the shopping mall and we're killing zombies and we're sort of taking over the mall and we're at the Pennies and the nun gets caught in the door and I'm about to shoot her and George says, no, wait. And I said, but she's a zombie, I have to kill her. And he goes, I know, but she's a nun. And I said, but what are we going to do? And we literally had a conversation because George is very Catholic. And I said, but you made her a nun. I mean, it's not my fault. And he said, no, but you can't do it. You can't do it. So we talked about this, I think, for about 10 minutes. And he said, you have to let her go. So I did. In the film, I opened the door and the nun goes away. George was okay with that.
So,
okay, here goes. I'm going to try and persuade you to do this. Will each of you do a line from the movie that you like? Please.
Perfect, baby, perfect.
I only have one line. I said, get me a bike.
My favorite line was one that George decided to write for me while we were making the film, and it was, I turned around to the guys and I said, I would have made you all breakfast, but I don't have my pots and pans.
Okay, you know it. There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk the earth.
So it has been another question. No, it's finished. Get out. This guy has to leave. Okay.
Thomas has a question. Thomas has a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Tasso Stavrakis, can you tell something about the FX work with Tom Savini and Dawn of the Dead?
Oh, we had a great time doing the effects because we were inventing it as we went along. So not only did we try to invent things that George had in mind, but Tom was thinking and I was thinking, and we were inventing stuff that we would come up with, and we'd run up to George in the middle of shooting some other scene and say, George, we got this great idea. We have to stick a screwdriver in the guy's ear, and George would start laughing, and they'd go, okay, we're going to shoot in 5 minutes, we'll shoot that. And he would stop, and we'd fit these new scenes in. And so we would figure out how to do that with a straw and a pencil and, you know, the stuff we had laying around. It was great fun. Inventiveness.
I have Savini, but the first time I met Savini was before we started filming, and he was making my head. Because originally the ending of the film was I was going to go into the helicopter and my head was going to fly off. So we obviously had to make a fake head because we couldn't do it with a real head. So Savini had this whole thing and he put this latex on me, and then he got me stuck in the head and he couldn't figure out how to get me out of the head. So this was the genius Savini. So I was stuck in the head for about 2 hours, I think, and this was my beginning of Dawn of the Dead.
He did the same thing to his first wife.
It has been a long time since the movie has been made. So over the years it has become a huge fan favorite, a cult movie and stuff like that. What do you think after all these years, to be objective about the movie, where it stands today, in the way it was made, in the way it now stands as an older movie from the 70s? Where do you see it today?
You know, it was 1978, and you know, I thought that, you know, after the years have gone by, it would lose some, you know, of its appeal and that kind of thing. But I find that this film is rated, even as recently as a few years ago, as one of the top 10 action, adventure, horror films ever made. Along with Blade Runner, Clockwork Orange, those Alien, those kind of films. And I'm amazed. In many countries, it's considered one of the greatest horror films ever made, and it still, well, you're all sitting here. It still has a great appeal everywhere. I just think that this film has, it's not really, you know, horror. There's so much social commentary in it. There's comedy. There is that incredible soundtrack and that mall music. Sometimes I'm walking. I've had it happen to me at least 3 or 4 times. Where I'm walking in a mall somewhere, and I will hear someone will recognize me. They won't say anything, but behind me I hear somebody going dun 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 dun. Oh God, what hell is it? So it stands up, and as they say, it has legs, and it continues to have legs.
I think for some people, I showed it to my daughter, right? And she is now 28, okay? But she saw it when she was, I don't know, 16, okay? She found the film very funny, right? It didn't scare her at all, not whatsoever, but that's also partly her, right? So I think for some people, it's not as scary, but they appreciate the relationships in the film and that circumstance. And what would you do if you were in that similar circumstance? How would you behave, etc. So I think people will continue to relate to it on that level as well. Because if you watch a movie like Saw, that's excruciating to watch, you know. I mean, I saw the first Saw, I found it so painful, it was like torture, basically. So there's a difference in terms of those kinds of films, basically. I don't know if that answers the question, but.
At the time, I guess it was, we were making a horror movie, but we didn't think about it. We were breaking such new ground at the time. Tom said, look, George wants to see everything. He doesn't want to cut away. He wants to see everything. And, you know, that was the test at the time. How are we going to do that? How are you going to stab somebody and make it actually go in on camera and make it work, make it look realistic? And why? We didn't ask ourselves why. Why does he want that? Well, no one has done that. So that was why. But we never thought about it as a horror film. We thought about it as an action adventure. You know, Tom and I, we became friends in school because we liked Errol Flynn. We like the sword fighting movies and the horses. And so that's how we looked at it. And we actually got to bring some of that in with our biker characters. The swinging on the rope and the diving and the jumping. And Tom actually brought a sword in. His character has a sword, for crying out loud, just because he wanted to. So we added that. And to this day, every time just talking about it, when you see it, there's still that joy in the movie. As bad as it is, with all the blood and the gore, it's still fun. It's fun to watch, it's fun to talk about, and that's why it's important to me.
Well, I think, you know, even more than Night of the Living Dead, I mean, George brought zombies into the world. I mean, zombie is now a word that is in every country, every language. Everybody knows what zombie is. And I think it began there, and look at all, I mean, now we have The Walking Dead. It's really an amazing arc of 35 years or however long, and it'll probably continue. Also, I agree with Ken, you know, I mean, when you think about it, you walk in the mall, you know, and you look at people. And what George was trying to say, in many ways, if you see the blood and you see this, but it's never violence. The violence is not torture, and it's not violence against women. It's violence against people, and it's the undead. It's a different kind of violence. And it's also the idea of the mall, and are the living the zombies or the dead the zombies? And you look in the mall, you look at people walking, and what George was trying to say is still today very true. Is that we become like the zombies even while we're alive. And when we go back to the shopping mall, why do we go there? Why did the zombies come there? It's in fact, in many ways, it's because he says this is what they knew. And we're still doing it. Nothing has really changed, in a way.
You all have seen the remake, and what do you think of it?
Yeah, the remake by Zack Snyder. I didn't mind it. It was a very different movie. It doesn't possess, you know, Romero's humor. There is no social commentary per se. Did you think it was social commentary?
No.
No. And it was a very different film. Similar premise, people trapped in the mall, but not really. Some, but not really analogous characters with a different name. And the interesting thing about that was, which I'll never forget, when I met Eric Newman on the set, he was the producer, and Zack Snyder, Eric Newman came up to me, and it was like really sweet. He was acting like a teenager. I don't know what happened to you when you were there. But he said, "Wow, I can't believe that you are actually here doing this movie." He was acting like he was 15 years old. He's like 41 or 2, right? And then he said, "You know, I really hope George is not offended by what I'm doing because I don't want to offend him." And I thought, well, that was pretty cool. So I sort of gained respect for him. Because some people didn't like the fact that he was redoing it. I just thought it was a different film. And I personally did not mind the zombies were moving fast like crazy. They were all pretty much the same. They didn't have identities particularly, like in George's movie. You have these identities, and the zombies are characters in a way.
Very short, very quick. I thought it was a tribute to us, to Dawn of the Dead, the original, George Romero. They didn't spend a lot of time in the mall, but I thought it had it had a much larger budget and it had great shots. I think the shot of them when they're crawling around the bus and they have that crane shot and they're showing off the zombies converging on the buses, they're escaping from the mall. Wonderful shot. And also the beginning when they, it's like that Hitchcock shot, another crane shot when the cars explode and the tanker explodes and that kind of thing. And I think it was a really exciting, fun, but a horror film, and a good horror film, and a tribute to us. And that was enough. That was enough for me.
For me, I just thought everything moved too fast, and I wasn't engaged at all. I felt it was, to me, the real tribute to Dawn of the Dead was Shaun of the Dead.
My favorite movie.
And, yeah.
Are there any final comments, anything you want to share with the audience, or mention a project that you're doing right now? Now's your time.
You know, the movie Dawn of the Dead wouldn't be alive unless it was you people. Seriously. I mean, we did not expect the film to have a life that it's had, and you don't really think about that when you're making a film, because you never know. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Whoa. I've been in Germany 6, 7, 8 times, different events similar to this, and I find you to be some of the nicest, most hospitable, kindest people I've ever met in my life. I really appreciate you, and you've been kind to me every time I've been here, so thank you. I mean that from my heart.
Ladies and gentlemen, the cast of Dawn of the Dead, Miss Gaylen Ross, Mr. Scott Reiniger, Mr. Ken Foree, Mr. Tazo Stavrakis. Thank you very much.